Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the review for issue 53 and issue 54 of Warhammer Combat Patrol. We get 10 Hearthkyn Warriors. Hearthkyn Warriors. Now, I'm interested to have a look at these because some of the design aesthetics for some of their weapons are a little bit Tau-like. So I'm interested, as a Tau player, I'm interested to see how much sort of like carries over from the Tau Empire to the Leagues of Votan, and what, if any, the connection is. But anyway, come and join me on the desk and we'll have a look through. Hey lovelies. Right, shall we have a look at Combat Patrol issues 53 and 54? We get 10 Hearthkyn Warriors with these two issues. Come out. Right, just check and make sure I've got all the bases. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. So are they 32 or 28? It might be 28 actually. We'll look in a mo. There's the plastic, and here are the magazines. So, Hearthkyn Warriors. Straight into the build. Looks like you have plenty of heads. And there looks to be a mix of male and female heads here, which is nice to see. I'm just wondering how many helmets we get. Possibly, don't know, I can't see any. Dagnammit, does that mean I'm going to be painting faces? Potentially. We'll wait and see. Right. So we have our Thane. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced, Thane. Actually, it looks like we might have various helmets by the look of it. Yeah, so it looks like they all get a helmet. I'll have to have a look. I quite like the helmets. We have plenty, but they all seem to be... This is a Magna Rail rifle, this one here. And we have a Thane with a plasma pistol and some form of power sword, power weapon, but also we have another one with a pan-spectral scanner. We've got the Magna Rail rifle, we've got a high-las rifle, comms array dude here with his little backpack, medipack according to this one, and that looks like some sort of flamer potentially that he's holding, or is that the... It's different configuration to the high-las rifle, so I don't know what those are. I've not had Leagues of Votan before, so I am not up on their weapons, I'm afraid. Then we're coming into how to paint, updates to our models. So our Chaos Lord
coming in with some pallid witch flesh on some of the teeth, claws, skulls that adorn the Chaos Space Marines and the such. Using pink horror to highlight some of the cloaks on the acolytes with the Dark Apostle. Yeah, mostly pallid witch flesh, updating things like tusks, horns, teeth, scrolls and skin textures. And then here's your work in progress for that one. And then on our orcs, pallid witch flesh for the teeth, some of the tusks, skulls, horns. They're using it to highlight the edges of the wrapping around some of the hand weapons. Pink horror for the tongue, Mechanica Standard Grey for some of their tunics and trousers. Yeah, okay, cool. And that is our work in progress now. Ta-da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, there we go. Okay, so read Leagues of Votann number 3, the Ancestor Cores. So from what I have read, it seems that their consciousness can be uploaded to some form of hard drive and stored if they are like nearing death or something like that, and for later retrieval. The Grimnir. The Grimnir are the only kin who can communicate with the Ancestor Cores, and they have become known as living ancestors. They use vast technological structures called Fanes to petition the Votann for wisdom and guidance that they interpret and lay before their kindred. The Grimnir also have a role to play in battle, as they are psychically active and able to draw power from the warp. Clone skins. The kin are a race of clones, but they are not all identical. Their development is varied with the use of stable mutations known as clone skins. These impart valuable characteristics which have helped the kin to survive the galactic core even. It is said that long ago, in the near mythic past, the original mutations were developed by the Votann, and the Ancestor Cores have continued to shape the development of the kin ever since. The lost and the lamented. The kin will lay down all in defence of an Ancestor Core, but even their might has not been sufficient to save all the Votann from the dangers of the wider galaxy. Some have been captured after their last defender fell, much to the horror and shame of the kin. In hushed voices, tales are told of how ancient enemies like the Orcs and the Great Devourer have captured and desecrated sacred Votann. So, Leagues of Votann unit names, and you have some naming tables, D6 rolling naming tables. Hearthkyn Warriors here. You have a background D6 rolling table here, and then you can name your unit if you wish and tick off when you've built, paint and played them. Then you have the data sheet for the Hearthkyn Warriors. So they have a 5-inch move, toughness 5, 4 up save, 1 wound, 7 plus leadership and objective control 2. They have an Autok pattern bolt pistol, Etacam plasma pistol, High-Las auto rifle, ion blasters, so that must be the other ones were, and Magna rail rifles. And then they have a close combat weapon and kin melee weapon. And then we're into campaign for Space Marines versus Tyranids. Amid the chaos of war, 2 long-standing foes meet each other on the battlefield once more. Chance and circumstance may have brought them together, but it is the skill and the might that will decide the victor. The Space Marines continue their quest to uncover ancient technology that could turn the tide of battle, not just here but across the galaxy. Several scouting parties have begun scouring the system for clues and evidence, but so far their findings have been scant. A nearby strike force of Space Marines waits to see how the situation develops, ready at any moment to close in to defend an important find, secure an area, or fight their way back to the Imperial stronghold with their prize. Meanwhile, the Tyranids continue their own inscrutable advance. The hive mind has unleashed a swarm of Tyranids upon the local systems, but though the tide is vast, this is no mindless or unthinking assault. With every battle won and with every objective captured, the Great Devourer is one step closer to launching an unstoppable attack that will overwhelm everything in the Tyranids' path. So Space Marines, the quest for ancient archaeotech continues, and the Seekers home in on their goal, but the Tyranids are massing and the scouting parties are not equipped to hold off a full-scale attack. The Space Marines deploy to hold back the Great Devourer and save one scouting party from certain death and failure. The situation is critical, and only a Space Marines victory will allow the search to continue. The Tyranids push forward, directed by the hive mind to capture strategic points within the system from which to launch further attacks. The way is barred by a small group of Space Marines, and the hive mind sends out a force to destroy them. Once the Space Marines have been defeated, the Tyranids will be able to push further into the system. Then the true horror of their merciless invasion will be unleashed. So, Clash of Patrols. To play the scenario in this campaign, you will need the combat patrol mission called Clash of Patrols. You can find it in your collection filed under G, Core Missions 1. So it looks like we are using the 2 combat patrols that we have for the Nids and the Marines. And then you have your victory conditions. So we are coming into how to paint. Let us separate our pages. Okay, so base coats. It looks like we're starting with a black primer. Avalon Sunset is being used as the base coat for the coveralls that they're wearing, and then Catachan Flesh for some of the elbow and knee pads. Lead Belcher for weapons and visors on helmets. Retribution armour for some of the gold detail. Scream of Pink for handguards on weapons. Mephiston Red for lenses in the centre of the visors and the outside of the Thane's power sword. Lights on the void armour in red. Macragge Blue for the screen that's on the dude's Pit-Boy. Wraithbone is being laid down for some of the faces. Catachan Flesh for other faces, and then they're using, it says here you can use either Abaddon Black or Corax White for hair colours, and this will be your work in progress when you're done. If we're going to be laying down a base coat of Avalon Sunset, I would be tempted to undercoat these miniatures with Wraithbone or Corax White, just basically so that it's easier to put the Avalon Sunset down. Otherwise, because yellow's notorious for getting decent coverage over black otherwise, and it may be an issue. We're then adding in some shades, so non-oil on your backpacks, weapons and sword, and then Agrax Earthshade over the gold and the Avalon Sunset. In fact, no, Reikland Flesh Shade over the Avalon Sunset coveralls, Agrax Earthshade for the gold, and some of the silver parts actually. Okay. Stormhost silver acts as a highlight on the visors, and your gold and metallic parts. Night Quest or Flesh highlighting your leather bits and like elbow and knee pads, and Mechanica Standing Grey highlighting any black bits. And there you go. Technology of the leagues, so some background fluff on their kit, and then we're into walkers and battle suits. So we have a dreadnought here. This looks like a Space Wolves dreadnought, and we have a Scout Sentinel here. Tau battle suit, dreadnought again. Skvald Warbringer is this Space Wolves dreadnought. Reed Fiction 12D Martyr. So we got Adepta Sororitas in this one, or Sisters of Battle. And then Campaign Eldari versus Space Marines. So Campaign 03 in our green H section. Eldari war hosts are nearly unparalleled in the suddenness and swiftness of their assaults, so when they encounter the hard-hitting strike force of the Space Marines, the two sides clash in whirlwinds of violence. The inhabitants of an Eldari craft world are desperately scouring the area for the spirit stones of a lost band of outcasts. They are loath to continue on their journey, leaving their fallen comrades to the mercies of the wider galaxy. But neither do they wish to add to the number of their dead, for every one of their number is precious and irreplaceable. Meanwhile, the Space Marines continue to search for lost technology and relics that might aid the Imperium in their many campaigns around the galaxy. Most of the search is being carried out by small parties of scouts who will be no match for the concentrated enemy force. The Space Marines must react whenever the situation changes, swooping in to protect the scouting parties from sudden threats or clearing areas of enemy ground before the parties move in. The situation is volatile, and at any moment they might be called on another deadly mission. So we are using the Display of Might from Core Missions 02. Eldari. An Eldari forces landed on a planet where their lost brethren sent their final transmission, but the planet is already occupied by the forces of the Imperium. The Eldari map the position of the final signal and realise that the Imperial investigators are right on top of it. A force of Space Marines moves in to further solidify the Imperial position, and the Eldari respond, sending a force to take and hold the area. Space Marines. An Imperial scouting party has reported the discovery of some unusual monuments on a barren planet surface. The Space Marines mobilise, determined to protect the discovery and secure the surrounding area. Intelligence indicates that there are scouts from other factions in the area. Fearful that they will discover the secret, a combat patrol of Space Marines heads straight for the area to claim the ground. So there you go, that's your victory conditions for Space Marines. Then you have Eldari versus Tyranids. An Eldari craft world has come to the system, diverted from a long voyage. An advanced party of rangers disappeared here a short time ago, and the Eldari are desperate to find them, or their spirit stones. If the worst has happened and they have been slain, the area is fraught with peril, and the sooner that the party can be found, the sooner the craft world can continue on its voyage. Meanwhile, the Tyranids continue their advance through the system. The hive mind is unknowable, but this does not mean that the Tyranids' attacks are random or without strategy. On the contrary, with every battle won and with every objective captured, the Great Devourer is one step closer to launching an unstoppable attack. that will overwhelm everything in the Tyranid's path. So this is Clash of Patrols, and you can find it in G Core Missions 03. Eldari. The Eldari are investigating a planet from which the Lost Outcast band's final communication was sent. The leads are promising, but the hunt But before the hunt can get truly underway, sensors detect an incoming swarm of Tyranids. The Eldari marshal a host to respond. They must repel the Tyranids and shield the investigators from attack for as long as they need to find traces of the missing rangers. Tyranids. The hive mind sends out patrols into the system to extinguish any burgeoning threats before they can take root and disrupt the passage of the hive fleet. The Eldari represents not only a threat to the plan, but also a valuable resource whose bodies can be converted into biomass to strengthen the Tyranid hordes. An Eldari presence is detected on a nearby planet and a force is sent out to destroy them. There's your victory conditions. Wow, we got loads of various scenarios in here this week. So we've got 2 campaign scenarios, and then we have scenario 33, Duck and Cover. To play Duck and Cover, set up your battlefield on one mat as shown over leaf. Then the players gather their army. The Orc player chooses 4 units of 3 boys. 2 units must be armed with choppers and sluggers. 1 unit must be armed with shooters and the big shooter, and the final unit must be armed with shooters and the rocket launcher. The Leagues of Votann player divides their unit of 10 Hearthkyn Warriors into 2 units of 3 and 1 unit of 4. The unit of 4 should include the Thane. Each Hearthkyn Warrior is equipped with a pan-spectral scanner which ignores cover to all the weapons in the unit. The units are then deployed in accordance with the instructions over leaf. So that's the setup. The background is there is no place that the Orcs cannot infest. Even a supposedly empty planet can suddenly find itself teeming with orcish life, erupting like maggots from rotten food. This sobering fact is not lost on the warriors of the kin, who often find themselves far from help when looking for resources in the most derelict and forsaken corners of the galaxy. Deep in the void, far from the rest of their kindred, a lone scout ship is exploring the potential of a small group of planets that were previously thought to be completely unoccupied. When sensor readings on the ship pick up life signs, a unit of Hearthkyn Warriors is dispatched to investigate and report on the state of the planet. As soon as they make planetfall, it becomes obvious that it was worthy of investigation. But there are definite signs of life too. The Thane cautiously orders their troops to converge on a nearby set of features. As they draw close, they see that they are walking towards the wrecked remains of some sort of drop zone, or perhaps a temporary camp. Whatever its origin, there is nothing natural about the welded and painted steel that the debris is made from. The warriors make a quick sweep of the area, but there is nothing to see. These items could have been here for millennia, but as they prepare to leave, the sensors in their helmets start to return data. Quickly they rush to the most defensible position that they can find. The data streams in faster and faster until at last an acoustic signal registers. The sounds resolves into a single cry, growing in strength and intensity. Wah! The Orcs are coming. So this is how you're going to set up your battlefield on a single map. So your Orcs deploy in basically the short table edges, and it looks like the rest of your Hearthkyn Warriors will deploy somewhere in too. At the end of each player's command phase, excluding those in the first turn, players score victory points as follows. If they control an objective marker, they score 5. If they control more objectives markers than their opponent, they score 5. At the end of the 5th battle round, the player with the largest number of victory points is the winner. If both players have an equal number of victory points, the battle is a draw. So benefit of cover here, how to play. So a little tutorial, and then you have your victory conditions. And then to look forward, we have these rather snazzy looking jet bikes. Is that what you call them? Hearthkyn Pioneers, they're called. So one of these has a heavy weapon mounted to it and a gunner, and the other two are just single crewed with what look like large packs on their back. But they look like they've got some form of repulsor lift technology. Right, let's have a look at the sprues. So the sprues are a sculpt date of 2022. Let's have a look at this one, which has all the heads on, and there is a lot of heads on this. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 there alone, all unhelmeted, and then we've got another 6 making 18 just on this 20, so there's one each there, so a minimum of 20 heads on this sprue, which is quite a lot actually. Haven't decided if I'm going to have them helmeted or unhelmeted. I do like the visors that the void suits use. I like the fact that they're very similar to when our own astronauts put the gold visor down on their spacesuits. I think they look pretty groovy. We've got various pistols here. We've got a couple of different Volkite type plasma weapons by the look of it. And now I don't know what this is. This is some sort of rotary gun. But there are obviously we're going to be building it for the combat patrol, but there are different weapons loadouts here that you could equip if you wanted to. If you're a collector of the Leaves of Votan, then obviously you can build these how you want. Most of the instructions, although we only get one set of instructions with this and no real options, you can find most of the instructions on Reddit. That's what I tend to do when I want to do something slightly different. So we have some more bodies here. So it looks like the bodies are mostly back and one leg, and then we glue the other leg and the front of the torso to it. There's quite a few of these packs as well. So I've got one full pack there. There's another large type pack with something else attached to it. I think this might be the medic. And then we've got a load of these little like power generator backpacks as well. But it looks like we've also got a choice of power weapons for the Thane. So we've got an axe here. We've got like a power sword. We have another axe here. We've got some daggers. I think they might just be for the troops, etc. There's an arm here lobbing a grenade. Yeah, we've got some sort of like hammer here as well. Another axe. So that might be able to make a different unit depending. So we've got 3 kind of like pioneer tools more than I would say force weapons. They're more pioneer tools. And for clarity, when I call something a pioneer tool, it's because in the British Army for a long time there was a unit, I think they were called the Pioneer Corps. They were called Assault Pioneers, and essentially what they were was glorified trench diggers. So you could end up joining the Pioneer Corps, and it would be your job to prepare defensive positions for frontline troops to move into. So say, for example, if during the Cold War the Russians had ever decided to come over the Rhine, whilst the fighting units, the teeth arms like the infantry and the artillery and the tank regiments were trying to slow them down, the pioneers and the engineers would have been preparing defensive positions further back for those units to fall back into, in order to then hopefully go firm and stall any advance. So that's the reason why I call them pioneer tools. So whenever I'm like on scale models, you've got like the pick and the shovel and stuff like that, then yeah, they just get referred to as pioneer tools. But yeah, these are going to be interesting to build. I've not, apart from the Carl that we did last week, I've not done these at all. No Leagues of Votan whatsoever. I think we're only getting the only mechanised unit are the Hearthkyn Pioneers, and as such, we don't get any. I'm fairly certain we don't get any vehicles with this. I think it's another infantry unit that we get with the premium kit. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that's the case. I can't remember because I haven't got the bit of paper in front of me, but I'm fairly certain it's another foot unit that we get with the premium kit for these guys. But there you go. Come and join me on the desk and we'll get a few of these built. Okay, let's build some of our Leagues of Votan chaps, shall we? Now, I need my glasses. First off, we are going to go with our rail rifle armed individual. And I like to put the torso in and then follow up with the rest of the body. Just be aware that in some instances you may just need to push some items a little bit in order to get them to seat properly. So, and these pretty much, I think there was only one of these miniatures that had both the legs separate, but these pretty much go together, majority of them, the same way. So I build the torso up and then I will stick him to the base. And that gives the mini a bit of time to adhere to the base. Now, heads. With a lot of these, I'm actually going with the visor in the torso. That is currently my preference. But we have this rail rifle and the back of the hand. So the hand is on the pistol grip and the trigger. But the back of the hand is separate, and I like that because you get a really nice place to bond these two bits together. So that's really nice. The other thing is these backpacks have a bit of a groove going around the top here, and I found that's the perfect place to just add your glue before adding it to the torso. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and add in the helmet. Now just spend a little bit of time making sure you orientate these visors properly. And they will sit in, and there shouldn't be any gaps once you've seated it. Okay, so once it's seated, I'm just going to add in a little bit of that stuff. Then I'm going to come in with the weapon, and this guy is fairly sort of like parallel to the ground. And then just come in with the final weapon arm, like so. And that's our sniper, I suppose, for want of a better term. Sharpshooter, even, maybe. There's our kin leader. Now, this was the, I think this was the Auspex scanner, if I remember rightly. And again, though, goes together the same way. So I'm coming in with the torso. And torso's going in, and then just add some glue in there to make sure that it's seating okay. Then the leg. And these legs actually, just to let you know, they seat really well. So you'll know when it's in position because it will seat really well, and you'll feel that confirmation as it slides in to position. So just add that there. Do that. Now, with our not Vox operator, but the Auspex scanner, again, you've still got this lip around the backpack, the power pack, so that can go on nice and easy. And then just orientate your helmet as best you can so that it's mostly the right way. And when I say you should orientate it so that there's no gaps, I don't know if you can see that, but you can just see there's a gap, and just up there's a gap. So you just need to orientate this a little bit more. And when those gaps disappear, you should have your helmet in the right position, like that. So there you go. Now like I said, I've plumbed for mostly these visors. I like them actually. I think they're quite cool. And then we have this. Now this is going to seat in a particular way on this arm. And that is the way that is going to go, by the look of it, if I remember rightly. Just trying to get the orientation. Now, I'm not. Can I get away with? Can I get away with doing that? I think I could. I use plastic weld, which should give me a reasonable amount of time to play with this, and I think potentially we are going to be let's just pop that off and then re-look at this. So there is a dimple, and that dimple is on that. So that's how that's going to look. Okay. It's just making sure you get it around the right way. Right, so we'll just re-glue the arm. Like so. And then, like I said, there's a little recess just on his forearm there, which the strap should go into. Like that, and then the back of the strap is just tucking behind the shoulder pad, so just add some glue in there to make sure you've got the contact. When you come to paint it, just be aware that those two little contact points are all you've got, and then the final arm where the Auspex scanner is on the wrist is going on like so. Okay, now here's our unit leader, and again, torso. Don't do that. So torso, then the leg, like that. Bingo. And then I'm going to give this one her head, an unhelmeted head, but I won't do that until I have put the arms on with the weapons, etc., just so that I get the right general direction for it to be looking. Level's getting a bit low in that. Now, backpack. And then we have this arm with the sword raised, like that. Sword is very much upright there, and then the pistol like so, and then I shall just drop the head in, and I might just use some tweezers like so, and there's your leader. So there's our sniper. Let's put our visor in the spare pot. Those aside. So leader, sniper, your Auspex scanner dude. You have, I believe this is your Vox operator. I believe this guy is meant to be the medic. So if you're using them for a combat patrol, there are some specialists. I don't know, it could be a medic, or he could very well be demolitions expert. One of the two. And then you have like a las rifle there, and was there one that had, I think that was kind of like some sort of Volkite plasma pistol. So there's all your Leagues of Votann for these 2 issues. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care, bye bye.